Well, my experience is if you want to get something done, get going early, or else something's going to come along and jump right in your face and throw it off track. So I better get recording this audio right now. So this video here is number 76 of Spectating and Speculating. I've been watching this gentleman named Roger Spurr for, I guess, about 2 years now. And what attracted me to the very first videos that I watched that he had, that he has out there, he's got a lot. I think he posts almost every single day. He's very brilliant. He thinks outside the box. He's not limited by other people's ideas of what knowledge, wisdom, and imagination, what boxes those things are supposed to stay inside of, right? He's a very singular thinker. And I think he's great. The artist in me loves it. The teacher that used to teach mythology to middle school kids in me loves it. The science enthusiast all through public school and on through courses in college, in astronomy and biology and stuff like that. My own interest in atmospheric and seismic events, because I experienced the Coalinga, California earthquake when I was stationed in Monterey, California back in the early 80s. And we drove out and took a look at the carnage. There was a store that had literally fallen straight into the ground. And I'd never thought about an earthquake doing that before. I watched actually a glass of water rattle across the desk in my room. I was laying in bed reading, and I felt a rumble. I could feel it coming up through the foundation of this Navy barracks. And I heard a sound, and I looked across the room at the desk and just watched a glass of water dance about 5 inches across the table and fall off. It fell into a wastebasket. It didn't bust. And also, when I was a kid living out in Indiana, because we did spend 2 years of my childhood out in Indiana, and I mean, when I lived there, there were people that called it Tornado Alley, or a place, they talked about tornadoes. The kids I was in the 2nd and 3rd grade with, they were no strangers to tornadoes. And it was either 67, somewhere between 66 and 68. Let me put it that way. Trust me, that part of my childhood is not in... I haven't recovered a lot of clarity from them years. But we did live in a suburb of Indianapolis. Okay, people that are smarter than me, that a little older than me from Indiana might know exactly which tornado I'm talking about. And I think I went to a school called Bear Road Elementary School on the outskirts of Indianapolis. And as I recall, we had days off from school after that thing. It came by so close that the school system was affected, as well as homes, of kids that went to the school. And my dad hustled my sister and me and my mother into the shower of our bathroom because the prevailing folk wisdom, which I trust more than the opinions of dumbasses, said that the pipes that are likely to be in the walls around a room with plumbing might just be the only thing you can grab onto if your roof comes off. Okay, we did that. We looked out the window as, people's picnic table umbrellas were sailing up into the air like rockets, getting sucked up. And sheds were rolling laterally between the backyards of the houses and knocking over fences. I remember all that. Apples on the ground the next day. I'm very long-winded, all right. But anyways, I'm saying all that to say this. The things that Roger Spurr studies fascinate me. And I do have a little bit of a skill set in this area. Not to mention my mother's dad. Now, I'm not going Uncle John Trumpy about this. You know, somebody that you didn't grow up around or know much about, really, and who never taught you a damn thing about being smart. My grandfather, my mom's dad, was really smart. He was a chemist and he was an archaeologist. That's what his two graduate degrees were in. And he worked for Kodak. So when I was a kid, I learned a lot about photography. I learned a lot about minerals and rocks. He had a cabin up in Canada which had some windows that were actually made of mica, very thin mica that you could kind of see through. It was great. Okay, so I like Roger Spurr. In some ways, he actually reminds me of my grandfather Byers, which is a very high praise for a person. Okay, so having said all that, I'm going to let you listen to some Roger here for a minute. Okay, and I want you to think about it with your whole brain if you can. Okay, don't let the possibility of this being true embarrass you. Okay, because everybody is stupid as hell about most things, but you don't have to stay that way. Right? So here's some Roger, and you'll see that he's going to ring your mythology bell. He's going to ring your geography bell, your topography bell. If you're a bird lover, oh, stand by. Lizards, too. And what I've done after Roger talks, and I may pop these images in during the clip to get them used properly in the right location. I've created some graphics that kind of amplify some of the things he's saying, okay, using GIMP, which is Adobe Photoshop for people who are broke. I love the product. Okay, so anyways, here we go with some Roger.
And then I think, well, maybe that was piled there, but I don't think so. Now, there was a lot of mining in this area of, I mean, look at this, of placer gold. Placer gold is gold, little bits and pieces of gold that's broken off and flowed down through stream beds and so forth. But this is not, that's kind of unusual. I mean, it's damn unusual. I never saw anything like that. This is why I want to ask somebody that lives out in that area, because I can't find anything about it. I've gone through all the mining and, claims in this area, but this is not that. That's, nobody could do that. I can't imagine anybody ever being able to do that. It's just so extremely regular and interwoven like that. That's just not... I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that might be a feather. So, in that vein, I fired up my microscope, got some feathers. Haven't looked at them yet, but we're going to do it in a couple of minutes. To the feathers, it's about as best I can get it. All right, that's a turkey feather here in my shop. That's pretty close to what I'm seeing down in Featherville, which is right down there. Now, let's take a look back at that a little further back here. Now that was a mile up. We're eye level right now, 1 mile. Okay. All right. Now that's going back to the tip. Going this way, we got this. Now look at that. I'm gonna come in a little closer. We're down 5,000 feet. That's amazing. I mean, I don't think anybody could have put that there. I can't imagine how anybody done that. I just can't imagine having anybody do that. And I also can't imagine that being done by anyone in creating that formation. I just can't visualize how they would have done that. But if somebody has any evidence on this or anything to talk about, I'd certainly love to know for different types of minerals out here. But I couldn't find anything specific about this. Somebody sent me this. All right, this is an area of transition in the feather from the little fluffy stuff down at the pointy end where you'd have, your quill tip if it was a pen, and you come back up here and it starts to transition up. See it, how it changes, coming out, coming out, coming out, and then all of a sudden you hit to where it starts to really turn into a feather, right about there. And then it does that. Okay, my extremely intelligent, inquisitive, open-minded friends. It's Roger from the only university on planet Earth now that is factually accurate and truthful. Now, what are we looking here? Now, you've always heard me say there's a dragon in Africa, in Morocco. Well, of course it's true. And here it is. There's the dragon right there. As we all know, it's not some big mystery anymore. And that dragon goes way out, and his tail flutes way out here. See, that's the end of his fluty tail, way out here. All right? And if you follow it back, you come to his decaying dragon scale tail here. And now when we come way back, dragon scale throat goes down here. Now, then there is the fish down here. Now, this is also quite interesting because Atlantis is also here, as we all know. And, you know, it's quite obvious. I've done this over and over and over. And this all ran out here, exactly as Plato said. See what Columbus had to say. Now, Jerry Gordon, a friend, and I get so many things from so many people. It's just amazing. And I can never, ever have understood these things without these people's help. Now, this map goes back to 1507, 1500, 1503. It's all right in that area. Now, let's listen to what this guy has to say. Listen. And this is called New World Discovery. It's from February 2019. John Levy. All right, so here he goes.
Difficult to miss such a feature. And this map is from the...
What he's talking about is the Great Lakes are not on this map. Now, this is so detailed. That's of extreme interest.
David Rumsey collection. Really amazing resolution that they give us. And so this really seems to predate anything that would have come after Christopher Columbus. This is clearly an older people. And, you know, the West is supposed to be the last area to be...
Look, this is California. This is so laden with people. All of these these are cities. And they're all over. I mean, just everywhere. The whole country is slaughtered with population.
Be explored.
And
yes, we have stories of, you know, Spaniards coming and, you know, settling the West, and we do see that. But this is something else. I mean, this is as if it's a unified people, a established and settled people, pre-Columbus. This is a map that he made in 1490, supposedly, before he sailed to America. And here it looks like what we see the Mediterranean in the middle here. And here we can see Italy, it appears. And here, I believe, is Egypt. And it's very difficult to make out on this map. It took me a minute until I realized that the borders for these countries, or land masses at this point, are made up of the names of the towns. And this map really shows a lot of development. If all of these are towns, and unfortunately I can't zoom in anymore, but this just does not look...
All right, I'm going to just cut. This is Africa. That is the Straits of Gibraltar. This, my friends, looks like the dragon to me. At some point, I think I showed this feather here. And it's virtually the same as a set of Fe2O3. The O3 gives you the reddish tint. That's another issue. But anyway, this is the feather muscle. Now, this is basically similar to the muscle from Jim. This is, remember these little tiny white lines that run in through it, and then the heavier line running through it, which is the big, heavy fiber. That's it. I believe they call them feathered muscles. All right, here's another shot from Jim. This is that muscle, the black part of the muscle. You see this right here, that break? That's what's called a sarcomere. Between here and there, that's a sarcomere. I'll show you those. Now, and what happens is this is the part that pinches. And this is all the little different striations. Now, remember, I always talk about lichen growing. I say lichen likes the vein blood, the black blood. Now, moss, the fluffy-looking moss, likes the red blood. It's two different things. Everybody seemed to be enjoying the one I did about Typhon, the dragon in the desert. So I am going to do one about Quetzalcoatl, who was the feathered serpent. I've heard of him referred to as America, America, and that's where he happens to be. So get ready. Okay, I want you to pay extremely close attention to what I point out to you. I mean, very close attention. You see his beards? You see the little white beard coming out of there? You see his headdress with the feathers sticking up out of his head, the big headdress? And you see this belly-looking thing that wraps right around and it sort of snakes around, and then all the fluty tail feathers sticking out in the back. All right, remember this now. The beard, the headdress, this exact architecture of his body. Now, let's see if I can show this, and I can. So get ready. Don't forget, this is what we're looking at. And I want to point out those features, and let's see if we can find it. The first thing I'm going to show you is a feather in his headdress. All right, that's the first thing. And then I'll back away, and we'll see his whole outline. Okay, this is Google Earth. This, I'm saying, is the rib of a hair. Just like this. You see the little blocky-looking things in there? Just like that. It comes off. There's another one over here. These little, and I think they're just the little barbels, but whatever. These are the hairs. I mean, the feathers coming off. And I will show you the rest of his body, and this is part of his headdress. So I'm going to back right out. All right, and this is all still part of his headdress. And there he is right there in his most spectacularness. But that's why it's a different color. And anything where you have feathers, everything grows extremely green in feathers. They sell feather meal, so to make things grow green. Now, blood also makes things grow green. So don't forget, what did I talk about before? I talked about the headdress. And here's his headdress. And it goes all the way back just exactly like it does. There it goes right there. It's exactly like it was. And that's the reason it's going green, because of feather meal. Exactly like it was. And that's the reason it's going green, because of feather meal. This is his body. Remember his beards? There's the beards right there. There's the beards right there. And here, of course, there's a snake body. Remember that big snaky body coming wrapped around? All right, so, I mean, this is Quetzalcoatl. And the size of him is the entire east coast of the United States. You see this? This is his body. Comes all the way down around, all the way down. And you can see the break. You have to look and see just to see the pattern. You see the pattern, you see the pattern, you see the pattern. You see this? This is runoff from a dead, decaying body. This is all runoff. All right? And this is his body still coming around. Let's come back out. Here's his body. Comes, wraps right around, right around, right around, right around. And this is the runoff. That's why it's a different color. This is the body. This is the body. This right here is where he poops. And that's Washington, D.C. I'm not kidding. And these are the feathers. Remember I told you there's feathers all over? And they are. And they're green. Everything grows very, very green in these feathers. You see, this thing continues all the way up into Canada. I mean, it has that same look to it coming up, but I really can't make any heads or tails of this. Here, there's no question. These are feathers. These are all feathers. These are all feathers up to here, and I guess they keep going. They look like this has to be the same stuff. It looks like to me. I don't know, it might stop here, I don't know. But it does look like it just keeps going, but that's way up into Canada. Now, what happened here? He spit something out, and this is a zone that there's nothing can live here. Everything's dead here. And this is all like some really nasty, nasty stuff. It's hypoxia, I think they call hypoxic zone or something like that. There's a word that means nothing can live here, and that's what it is. He must have had a lot of toxins just like the other one. And this is where he spit it all out. And this goes right up through his throat. This is all runs right up around and down his digestive system. And his digestive system is like in Luray Caverns and places like that. Because I've gone down and looked at that too. You know, I've been to Luray Caverns long, long ago when I had no idea. But now I go on the internet and I look into them and I can see that's the biology of the digestive system. These huge caverns inside, that was the cleaned out digestive system. And it's still, a lot of the minerals and stuff are running out of there. That causes those stalactites and stalagmites, which are from enzymes that have dissolved things and turned them into mineral soup. And when they run down, they recongest. Well, all I can tell you is I'm showing you Quetzalcoatl. Now, whatever, they got a lot of things they talk about in the ancient past, but it goes back to not that long ago, really. All right? The earliest known documentation of the worshiping him was only in the 1st century or the 1st century A.D. The period lies within the late classic period from 400 B.C. to 600 A.D. That's the earliest they have of him, talking about him. Now, there was a whole batch of crazy things happening right after the Great Flood, apparently, because they used a lot of the body parts from the creatures of the Great Flood to build the walls and so forth in Peru and all that. That's all. These fluty things, this is his neck. That is the scales on his neck. Here we go in and look at his neck. And those are the dragon scales that go down his neck. I want to do this in less than 2 minutes to show you this giant dragon that is laying, decaying in the desert in this is the Atlas Mountains. This is Morocco. Now, that's all the effluent running off his dead, decaying body, and he is absolutely enormous. He comes all the way down. That is his body. There's his legs, and that is his tail. And over here, you can see his tail. Now, you do have Google Earth, I'm sure, so I am going to really fly through this. Now, he is attacking a giant fish. And that right there, my friends, is the stuff that he spit out at the giant fish. It is extremely noxious. And I have found and you will too, if you look at this very carefully, if you come way back up in here, this right in his throat is the injectors. You see, these are the red and the green injectors. Ooh, nastiness flows from there. Now, what did he try to do? He tried to kill that fish. And he attacked him on his fin, and it attacked his vital flesh. And that is a fish, gigantic, very large fish, over the top of Atlantis, right here. And I have shown the boats and so forth right in their slips over in this area somewhere. They're all over the place here. On this the other day, Tyson tipped me off to this dragon, which is literally China. And I'm telling you, that is a dragon. Now, we looked at it carefully and looked at the dragon flails coming down here, and his, all the way down to Hanoi is where his beard goes. And this is the dragon's eye, okay? And these are horns going up off the back. That's the eye over here. That's the eye over here. That's the crevice between the eyes. Now, let's look at this eye and the nictitating membrane. And there it is right there. That is the nictitating membrane. This is the eye lid that runs around it. You see all that blocky looking eyelid, and that's that nictitating membrane. Not only that, it allows water to flow down in here and through its normal channels. And look, what's living down in the water is cities of people. They are living in the edge of the nictitating membrane. Okay. And this is down in the front of the eye.